Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cody.
And this is Keeping Score Board Game Reviews. And today we're going to be reviewing Legacy of Man from Illustrious Games.
A Legacy of Man is a 1 to 4 or a 2 to 4 player strategy game. You can go up to 8 players with their expansion that adds 4 new countries to the game. That is available, and it looks pretty awesome. So a couple things about this game. It's an area control game where you're fighting over resources to get up to 7 victory points that will trigger the end of the game. Everybody's going to start with a victory point for having control of your own capital, and that is the only one of those victory points that once earned can be lost. So anytime you have a capital, you can lose a capital. Every other victory point you score for things such as
control of at least 5 neutral tiles, which are the white tiles, building all your structures, a win in the Colosseum, completing objectives, and defending successfully against an attack.
So they were nice enough to send us the Keeping Score Colosseum dice tray that they made for us. This was pretty cool. The normal game, of course, comes with just a sheet, and that is where you'll have people bidding on who's going to win the Colosseum, and then the 2 that fight in the middle. That's a neat way to score some extra resources. It's a neat way to gain a victory point, of course. Every race is going to have 3 ability cards, and those are unique to each race. Now, I think there's like 4 different ability cards or 5 in the deck, and each race gets a different mixture of them. Like for Russia, for instance, who's red, they start with raise, shield, heal worker, and constructor. Constructor allows them to build any structure at no cost during the build phase. Structures are walls and a bridge. They can heal 1 worker, or they can add 1 to any defense die, things like that. You play the game by each turn you have the option to summon a worker or soldier. Your workers will start in the hiring pool like so. Your soldiers and your champion all start in the barracks. Each worker can move, 1 movement, dear?
Workers can move 1 space, and they use the 4-sided dice for attack and defend. And then the soldiers can move 2 spaces per turn and use a 6-sided dice. Now the champion can also move 2 spaces, but they also use the 8 dice. So kind of an interesting thing about this game is that the setup begins with your 5 neutral tiles, or 8 neutral tiles there in the middle, and then you start laying out your grounds, basically. And all these tiles are magnetic.
Which is great.
So they kind of snap together as you lay out what you're doing, as do the bridges and the walls.
Yep.
So, a little jostle of the table isn't going to cause things to go everywhere. And that's kind of a neat aspect, I thought, of this. You're allowed to lay things such as mountains and oceans, which you cannot cross unless you have, of course, a dock or a bridge to basically get out of that area.
You can, however, use the shipyard to allow you to summon a unit somewhere else on the board near an ocean, which means even though you can't normally get past there, you could use your shipyard to summon directly into the enemy's capital because the way they laid up their tiles.
So you're going around collecting resources like food, gold, and wood, which are represented by these little
nifty pieces
3D
here.
Tokens. And as you gain those things, you're able to hire more workers and hire more soldiers. And if you land on a space where somebody else has a worker or soldier,
it initiates combat.
Yeah, you initiate combat. Now you can also go to the Colosseum, which is bigger combat. The winner actually collects resources then when they are attacking.
And of course, a win in the Colosseum will also score you a victory point. Yep. Some other things are that you can get objectives. When you complete these, those count as a victory point. And you can use the Library of Alexandria to get knowledge. And I love the knowledge cards. You can use those to train 2 units for the cost of a cheaper unit. There's all sorts of different cards in that deck that have different abilities. Another thing I love about this is they handled production of this game in-house. This is all really nice 3D and resin printing. This is what's considered their launch edition. They can still and probably will still be refining a few things due to some issues with our shipping, but the game itself is really solid.
The other good thing about the magnets is that when your cat jumps up to play, it holds everything together.
So I liked about this game that it's easy to learn. Everything about it makes sense. It's clean. It's not overly complicated. And I love that, even my 12-year-old son was able to grasp this and play it with us. So that was a good sign for a well-designed game. Comments about anything else besides, talking about it?
The laminated cost guide game information, and that told you the end of game points and the list of available actions. There were only 2 of these though in the box, and really I think if you had 1 per player, it'd be a little bit better.
I do agree with that, yeah.
Because this tells you how much each additional worker is going to be costing, and just there's a lot of good information that I can't necessarily commit to memory that quickly when playing a game for the first couple of times. So that's pretty handy. I like the idea of the game. I haven't played a lot of area control games necessarily. I think with a higher player count, I think it'd be more fun, because with 3, it's pretty easy to gang up on one person, which makes the game not so fun. So more players are better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if you play it with a larger group, you're going to enjoy it more. That doesn't mean it doesn't work at 2 or 3. That just means it makes it easier for you to be cruel to your players if you're just playing with 2 or 3. Another thing I really liked about this, though, is the modularity. The board will set up differently every time because players can place their tiles one at a time, taking turns, wherever they like around the central board. I like that, it's only got 3 resources you need to worry about. I like that it comes with, everything you need to enjoy the game without being bloated. So, for an area control game, for their first attempt at a game that they're publicly releasing, I loved it. I absolutely think that this is a neat, easy to learn area control game with enough strategy and variability to be played many, many different times. And I believe the expansion would add even more to that with a higher player count. So I'm giving it, I'm going to give it an 8. It's not perfect. It could use a little bit on the components, figuring out exactly how they're going to ship them without anything happening. But, for the game itself, solid 8. Good God. What a good attempt for first game. Well done.
So I'll give it a 7, and I will touch on what Cody just talked about with the components. These all shipped in little 3D printed boxes where they kind of slide down into them. And the purple team, which I think was Mongolia, almost all of them lost their spears or their swords.
Or their bases.
Or some of them came off the base. And that's an issue with the resin that they used to print with, which we've told them about, so they're going to be fixing that.
Yeah, they said they would address it.
So it's a little bit delicate. But I'd give it a 7. It's not necessarily my favorite style of game to play, but I think with a larger group that I would probably enjoy it better. With 3, it just kind of felt like it just didn't feel quite as challenging to me, because you were trying to gain resources, but you could technically stay in your little area the entire time if you really wanted to. And I really never even went to the Coliseum to fight. Whereas I think with a larger group, it would be more difficult for you to gather resources quite as quickly to up your player or up your soldiers and that kind of stuff. So, it's a neat idea and it's put together well. I definitely like the magnetic aspect of the game.
Oh yeah, anybody with tiles that you place on the table, if you could start putting magnets in them, I'd like that because that's really cool. So yeah, an 8 and a 7. This is their first big game as a company. I think they've done an excellent job. Any other things to add?
How can they get this game?
You can go to Illustrious Games website right now, and I believe they are selling copies. They've had a small run. If not, there's a place on their website where you can contact them if they happen to be out of them. But Illustrious Games, really nice group of people, really nice website. So don't have any problem reaching out to them to order a copy if you'd like it.
So yeah, this is Legacy of Man for ages 10 plus, 2 to 4 players, and it says average playtime is 45 to 90 minutes.
That's one of the few times the playtime on the box is pretty accurate, I would say. It didn't take us more than 90 minutes for sure.
Yep, so that's our review. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.